This week, we're breaking down how artworks are priced. The book's author is Olav Velthuis, a professor of art sociology at the University of Amsterdam. His focus is on the contemporary artworks that both mystify and fascinate us. The creators of these works are mostly our contemporaries. Their art is often obscure and difficult to understand, yet it commands astonishingly high prices on the market. Those who get it will spend a fortune, treating these pieces as treasures. Those who don't find the transactions utterly baffling. Take, for example, Sunflower, a signature piece by contemporary Japanese artist Takashi Murakami. The canvas is covered with cartoon-style smiling flowers that, at first glance, look like they could have been drawn by a 6-year-old. Yet in 2015, a work just like this sold at Christie's in Hong Kong for 13.84 million Hong Kong dollars. Why can perplexing contemporary artworks sell for astronomical prices? Who exactly defines their value? This is the mystery that How Artworks Are Priced sets out to solve. The author treats art as a social phenomenon, taking us deep inside the contemporary art market to analyze the roles and behaviors of buyers, sellers, artists, and other key players in the pricing process. You might assume that a work's size, technique, or the artist's fame are the deciding factors. But after reading this book, you'll discover that pricing art is, in essence, a game of masterfully managing social relationships. Get the relationships right, and the price will naturally fall into place. Now, let's step into the real process of an art transaction, explore its inner workings, and see how buyers, sellers, and artists co-star in this drama of value. The journey of an art transaction typically begins at a gallery. Regardless of their size or style, contemporary art galleries almost always divide their space into a front room and a back room. The author argues that this strategic layout holds the secret to the entire industry. Most galleries aren't located in bustling commercial districts but are clustered in specific areas, like New York's Soho or Beijing's 798 Art District. Their storefronts are deliberately understated. No eye-catching window displays or billboards, and the lettering on the door is so small you might miss it. Step into the front room, and you're greeted by a minimalist space, plain white walls, stark concrete floors, and a complete absence of commercial elements. It feels like a small museum, yet with the cool, refined air of a luxury boutique. The works on display never have price tags. There is no cash register, no payment terminal. Although New York City mandated in 1988 that galleries must clearly display prices, the rule was met with collective industry resistance. Many owners would rather pay the fine than attach a price tag to a work of art. In fact, they are reluctant to even bring up the price. If you ask the front room staff for a price, the typical response is, "The price hasn't been set yet." The gallery's back room, however, is another world entirely. This is where all business functions are concentrated. Comfortable chairs, large desks, detailed price lists, press clippings and reviews of their represented artists, auction catalogs, and all the necessary equipment for a transaction, like computers and fax machines. This art in the front, business in the back division cleverly strips the front room of any commercial atmosphere, signaling to visitors, "Please forget about money and commerce for a moment and appreciate the art for its own sake." Therein lies the strategy. An art transaction is not a simple monetary exchange. From the moment you enter the gallery, you are already enmeshed in a complex web of relationships. Even in the back room, gallery owners meticulously maintain a subtle distance from money. How exactly do they pull this off? First, gallery transactions are split between the primary market and the secondary market. The primary market is for new works entering the market for the first time, while the secondary market deals in works that have already been resold. Although the secondary market is highly profitable, gallery owners are tight-lipped about it. A dealer's reputation can be damaged by engaging too heavily in secondary market sales. Because the value of these works is often already established, dealing in them seems to suggest the dealer lacks a keen eye for art. Many gallery owners see themselves as discoverers and nurturers of contemporary art. If they are constantly reselling older pieces, they become mere flippers, and their taste and vision are called into question. So, how do these art dealers operate in the primary market? A gallery owner's day isn't spent just waiting in the back room for customers. They devote a huge amount of time to socializing, chatting with art world insiders, and attending all sorts of parties and previews. They never give a hard sell. Their words and actions are more like those of an art critic, using professional rhetoric to embed the works they represent into the art world's taste-making machine. They actively court positive reviews from critics and work tirelessly to get museum curators to include the works in exhibitions. You might think that all this effort is just about dressing up the work to inflate the price and sell to the highest bidder. That's not the case. After painstakingly building up a work's reputation, the gallery owner won't just sell it to anyone. Instead, they act like an interviewer rigorously screening potential buyers. Their primary consideration is the buyer's right buying motive. You must convince the gallery owner that you are an end collector who will take the work home to cherish permanently, never to return it to the market. The transaction in the back room is therefore a two-way selection process. Galleries are happy to sell to museums or to collectors who promise to one day donate the work to a museum. Once a work enters a public institution's collection, it permanently elevates the value of all of that artist's work. The gallery's other represented pieces, and the gallery's own reputation, rise with it. By contrast, motives like investment, speculation, home decoration, or social climbing are all considered wrong. A gallery will never sell a work to such a buyer. Where does this unique sales strategy come from? The author tells the story of the Van Gogh brothers. Vincent van Gogh never sold a single painting in his lifetime and lived almost entirely on his brother Theo's financial support. This exchange of money was a source of intense conflict between them, and the emotional debt tormented Vincent. Later, Theo suggested that instead of giving him grants, he would purchase his paintings. From then on, Vincent seemed to feel justified. He wrote to his brother that when you support an artist, you participate in the creation yourself. The painting the patron buys is not just a commodity, but the fruit of their shared creation. Van Gogh dreamed of reforming the art industry, turning art dealers into patrons who would provide for all of an artist's creative and living needs. Contemporary galleries have, to a large extent, positioned themselves according to this ideal. They see themselves as protectors of art, friends to the artist, bankers, nannies, and the first interpreters of the work. A gallery never buys out an artist's work. Instead, it builds a long-term alliance based on trust. The artist entrusts all future works to the gallery for representation, and the gallery provides regular financial support and develops a long-term promotional plan. When a work is sold, the proceeds are shared fairly between them. This model is more like a system of mutual obligation. The gallery supports the artist, and the artist repays them with work. The buyer, in turn, supports the artist and gallery with their purchase. Although the contemporary art market runs on huge sums of money, its core is a social network of mutual support where every participant, at least on the surface, is not primarily driven by profit. Besides galleries, auction houses are another major channel for art circulation. The author compares the relationship between galleries and the auction market. In 1999, the Matthew Marks Gallery in New York began representing the German photographer Andreas Gursky. The gallery held a solo exhibition for him, where his large-scale photographs sold for $50,000. But 2 weeks before the show, an older work of his sold at Christie's in New York for $173,000, which indirectly fueled the exhibition's success. Over the next few years, Gursky's auction prices soared to $611,000. The strange thing is, although the gallery also raised its prices for Gursky's work, the increases never kept pace with the auction house. This resulted in gallery prices for identical or similar works being far lower than their auction prices. Why are primary market galleries unwilling to price their works according to secondary market auction results? This isn't out of contempt for commerce. In fact, galleries have always seen auction results as a barometer for a work's price. The root cause lies in their self-identity as protectors of art. Gallery owners believe that the wild fluctuations of auction prices can damage the long-term value of an artwork. They want to control the price trajectory of an artist's work, ensuring it rises steadily and consistently on its way to being permanently collected. They are pursuing sustainable growth in both reputation and fortune. Auction houses are the opposite. They are only concerned with maximizing profit from a single transaction. Their strategies are seen as nearly unethical by galleries. They will lobby collectors everywhere to sell works, creating a panic that the market is about to crash. This floods the market with that artist's work in the short term, causing prices to fall and thus validating their initial prophecy, all while they profit. This short-sighted behavior, however, severely damages the artist's future. In a free market, a product should be sold to the highest bidder. But the art market is different. Galleries maintain a situation of high demand by deliberately limiting prices, even setting them below what the market is willing to pay. They create a waiting list, and while placement is partly first come, first served, the gallery reserves the right to reorder it based on its own criteria. Museums and collectors who never resell always get top priority. The chasm between gallery pricing and auction prices creates a huge opportunity for arbitrage. But someone known for speculating at auctions will have a very hard time getting into a gallery's inner circle. For a new buyer to acquire a new piece on the primary market, they must go through numerous meetings, conversations, and dinners with the gallery owner and the artist, proving their buying motive through a lengthy vetting process. So, when it comes to a specific transaction, how does a gallery actually set the price? Modern economics uses complex models to explain pricing, but entrepreneurs often rely on a rule of thumb and estimate based on experience. Art dealers are the same, except their rule of thumb is a form of tacit industry knowledge. The gallery owners interviewed couldn't clearly explain how they initially priced a work, describing it as a random guess or a game of imagination. But in reality, they are rarely wrong. This is because there are underlying rules: the work size, material, and technique, as well as the artist's overall career reputation. An even more important unwritten rule is this: the initial price should be as low as possible, then rise at a slow and steady pace. A steadily increasing price sends a positive signal of the artist's continuous development. Therefore, a gallery would much rather set a low initial price than ever have to lower it later. A price drop is the most damaging thing that can happen to an artist's career. A steadily rising price not only symbolizes the artist's growth, but also reinforces the art dealer's excellent aesthetic judgment. And for the buyer, the act of purchasing at a high price becomes a sublime emotional experience, a form of sacrificing for art that indirectly helps establish cultural value. In fact, price has played a reconstructive role in modern and contemporary art history. Picasso's Cubism only began to be taken seriously by the art world after it appeared on the auction block. Ultimately, there is no such thing as objective, constant artistic value. What we call value is a process of social construction. It is the symbolic capitalists, the museums, critics, galleries, and buyers who collectively give art its meaning and value through professional interpretation, exhibition, and transaction. In this process, price itself is constantly producing and transmitting meaning. To sum up, how artworks are priced shows us that the pricing of contemporary art does not follow simple logic of supply and demand. It is a complex game centered on relationships and identity. Gallery owners play the role of art protectors. They screen buyers and deliberately control prices, pursuing the long-term, sustainable growth in value for both the artist and themselves, rather than short-term profit. The value of art is not inherent, it is constructed by the entire social network of the art world. Price is a crucial part of this construction, bestowing prestige upon a work and even reshaping art history. When art and commerce meet, they coexist in a delicate tension. The business of finding the right price for a work of art is, in itself, an art form. And that's all for this installment. Congratulations, you've just finished another book.